I call the honourable member for Capricornia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Agriculture. I remind the Minister that I met recently with Port Curtis Dairy Co-op representing dairy farmers in central Queensland. Farmers like Peter Woodland at Youngalla and Ray Clues from Rossmoya near Rockhampton. How would abolishing the carbon tax and signing a free trade agreement with South Korea help create jobs in the dairy industry?
I call the honourable the Minister for Agriculture.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I thank the member for Capricornia and the work that she has been doing with the dairy farmers at Port Curtis. And I let the dairy farmers know of the correspondence that has come to my office by reason of the member for Capricornia, and that she is a diligent and hard work for that area. But of course, the dairy farmers at Capricornia have a range of issues that they need to deal with, and I commend the work that the Minister for Small Business, Bruce Bilson, is doing to make sure they are treated fairly as well. But one of the things we can change is the excessive cost that they're having to deal with. And if we go through the life of a dairy farmer, with a dairy farmer, if it's steel posts, Mr Acting Prime Minister, as the Deputy Prime Minister, steel posts, they've got to pay the carbon tax on those, or the steel mill does. If the steel mill's in Australia, if the steel mill is supporting Australian working families, they've got to pay the carbon tax. But of course, if the steel comes in from overseas, they don't pay the carbon tax. The wire, well, they've got to pay the carbon tax on that if it's from Australia, if it's supporting Australian working families. But if it comes in from overseas, they don't pay the carbon tax. In the shed, of course, they've got to pay the carbon tax when the electricity is going, so it's going to actually cost more to milk. And then it gets to the processor as well. Did you know that down south at Murray Goulburn, they paid $14 million in carbon tax in 2013. And this is the sort of cost, even when you get to the end of the cow's life, and they take them to the abattoir to be supported by Australian working families who you think would be supported by the Australian Labor Party, but they're not. They want to move Australian jobs overseas. They've been doing a very good job at moving Australian jobs overseas. But if you emit 24,999 tonnes of carbon, they don't pay the carbon tax. But if you emit 25,000 tonnes of carbon at that abattoir, like you would at Casino south of you, at the member for Capricornia, they do pay the carbon tax at $24.15. In fact, that beast that goes through triggers 25,000 tonnes by $24.15. It's the $603,000 beast. $603,000 beast. And where would a lunatic policy like that come from? Well, from the Australian Labor Party. From the Australian Labor Party. So why don't you stand up? And why don't you stand up for Australian working families? Stand up for Australian working families and get rid of the carbon tax and stop resting with your mates in the Greens and look after Australian working families.